NASCAR Racing 2003 season by Papyrus Racing Games. A word from Papyrus Racing Games. Welcome to NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Papyrus Racing Games has been making NASCAR racing simulations since 1994. For the past year, we've been hard at work making sure that this one, NASCAR Racing 2003 season, represents more than just the last installment in a long and successful product line. Our goal was to set a new standard of excellence in the racing simulation genre, and we knew we couldn't do that while merely resting on our laurels. So what did we do? Well, for starters, we worked with Jasper Motorsports and Goodyear to give the physics engine its biggest overhaul in 5 years. We paid considerable attention to the damage and aero models. We added an impressive array of graphical updates and new gameplay features. We did a lot of work on the AI, computer opponents, and the sound. We even tackled the difficult task of authentically modeling each track's bumps. This will certainly up the ante in terms of realism. In the real world, some of these tracks are so bumpy that drivers are forced to alter their lines in order to avoid heavy jolts. In a nutshell, we pulled out all the stops in our drive to make NASCAR Racing 2003 season the racing simulation by which all others should be judged. Thank you for your purchase and enjoy the game. The Papyrus Racing Games development team. Installation. Close all other programs before you begin installing NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Place the CD-ROM in its drive. The installation process should begin immediately. If it doesn't, click on the Start button and choose Run. Type D:/setup. Substitute D:/ with the correct drive letter of your CD-ROM drive if it's different, and choose OK. The installation will now begin. Enter the correct CD key located on the NASCAR Racing 2003 season CD jewel case. After a brief system test is performed, you must choose the destination hard drive and folder location for your NASCAR Racing 2003 season program files. Use the default drive and folder presented, or click on the Browse button if you'd prefer to install in a different location. When the basic installation process is complete, NASCAR Racing 2003 season will test your video card's capabilities. Choose a 3D acceleration format, renderer, a display adapter, and a graphics mode, and click the Finish button to begin the test. You can reconfigure these settings at any time from inside the game by going to the main menu and choosing the Configure 3D Graphics option. From outside the game, use the Windows Start button to open the Programs folder that contains NASCAR Racing 2003 season and choose the Configure 3D Graphics option. Alternatively, you can open the My Computer window on your Windows operating system and then navigate to the game folder and double-click on the config.exe file. Controller configuration. The first time you run NASCAR Racing 2003 season, you will be taken to the Controls tab on the Options screen, where you may be asked to calibrate your controller. There are 3 main steps to getting your controller to work with NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Number 1. Plug in and configure your control device, joystick, wheel, pedals, or gamepad using the Windows control panel first. Follow your control device manufacturer's installation instructions. Number 2. Calibrate your controller in NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Note: NASCAR Racing 2003 season uses its own calibration routines, so you must calibrate from within the game. Even if you have already calibrated your controller in Windows, the first time you run the game, the calibration box may pop up automatically. If it does not, simply click on the Options button located on the main menu, and then select the Controls tab. Follow the on-screen prompts to calibrate your controller. You should see the calibration meters on the right screen react to your movement. If you don't, your controller has not been recognized and may not be installed correctly. Number 3. Assign the controls. This is perhaps the most overlooked step in getting a controller properly set up. You need to tell NASCAR Racing 2003 season what each controller movement actually does. The controller assignment and gear selection items are on the left side of the controls menu. Simply click the mouse in the highlighted area to the right of a particular function, and when prompted to do so, make the controller movement or press the button you want to assign to that function. For example, to assign the accelerator to a pedal or button, click on the accelerator item on the controls menu, and then simply depress the pedal or button you would like to use as an accelerator. Keep in mind that you can assign any of these functions to the keyboard as long as the key you select isn't already being used to perform some other game function. The program will prevent you from attempting to assign any controller movement or keyboard key that is already in use. You'll have to reassign one of the control movements to another function before exiting the controls menu. You can reconfigure or recalibrate your controller at any time by visiting the options screen and clicking on the controls tab. You can get to options from the main menu, from the race weekend screen, or even while you're inside the race car. If your controller supports force feedback, NASCAR Racing 2003 season allows you to adjust the strength, damping, and latency of the response. Experiment with different settings until the controller has the feel that you want. For more information, right-click on any of the force feedback settings located in the upper right area of the Controls tab. There are a couple of other settings on the Controls tab that you may want to tweak before hitting the track. The first is steering linearity. Most people who steer with a wheel find that they get the best results with a high linearity setting, 70% or above, while joystick and keyboard users find that a lower setting, 20% or less, usually does the trick for them. Naturally, everyone is different, so experiment with this setting until you find your comfort zone. If you're using a digital controller or the keyboard, a vast array of options is available to help you achieve the smoothest response. You can find these adjustments under the Advanced button on the Controls tab. Finally, in the lower right corner of the Controls tab, you'll see a list of the various driving aids that are available in the game. For details on how a particular driving aid works, right-click on its name. Many of these aids are turned on by default because driving a 750 horsepower stock car at the limit isn't always easy. As you gain speed and confidence, you'll want to gradually turn the aids off. While the aids were designed to help novice drivers control their cars more easily, they have also been designed to be a disadvantage to the experienced racer. For example, turning on automatic shifting can give a beginner less to worry about while racing, but the gear changes won't happen with the same kind of speed or precision that an advanced driver can get by shifting gears manually. Options. The options menu is available from the main menu, from the race weekend screen, and via the escape key interface when you're in the car. In addition to the aforementioned controller selections, the option menu also allows you to tweak many different graphics and sound settings so that you can customize NASCAR Racing 2003 season to your liking. From the options menu, simply click on the appropriate tab control at the top of the screen, Controls, Graphics, Sound, or Other, and tweak to your heart's content. If you're not sure what a particular option does, right-click with your mouse on its name, and a pop-up help bubble will provide an explanation. Pop-up help is available for most menu options throughout NASCAR Racing 2003 season. The game initially sets many of the graphics and sound options automatically based on what it detects your system can handle. You can adjust any of these settings to your liking, but use some common sense. Each of these items affects the overall animation speed of the game, so cranking one item up may mean you'll need to reduce another item to keep the frame rate flowing smoothly. The bottom line is simple. A choppy game means sluggish control movements, and sluggish control movements usually result in losing control of the car. The main menu. NASCAR Racing 2003 season's main menu is the heart of the user interface and serves as your launching point into the NASCAR garage and every track on the circuit. The main menu is broken up into two sections, Action Modes and User Modes. Action Modes. The various action modes are listed on the left side of the screen. Here's a quick rundown on what they are. Testing Session. Just you and the track. Testing sessions give you the opportunity to learn in private on any track you choose without any other cars to distract you. Single Race. Pick a track and set up a race. You can compete in an entire race weekend, which consists of 4 race sessions: practice, qualifying, happy hour, and race. Or if you prefer, you can skip straight to the race and try to win from the back of the field. Championship Season. An entire season's worth of racing, as you accrue championship points based on your finishing position in each race. Will your name be the next one emblazoned on the NASCAR trophy? See if you've got what it takes. Multiplayer. Time to put up or shut up. NASCAR Racing 2003 season's unparalleled multiplayer mode allows you to compete against an entire field of living, breathing human opponents via the internet. Don't have enough racing buddies to fill out the field? That's okay. Throw some computer opponents onto the track if you'd like. Just remember to bring your modem, LAN, or internet connection along for the ride. Exit. Returns you to the Windows desktop. User Modes. The user modes are located on the right side of the screen, and they give you total control over the simulation environment. Here's what these items do. Driving lessons. Click here to check out a series of driving lessons and tactical tips that were made with the simulation's replay editor. We'll show you how to make your own later on. The lessons cover everything from the basics of car control up through the advanced subjects like racing strategy. Player info. Click here to change personal settings such as your name and the car you drive. Specify a car to drive offline and one to race online. Opponent Manager. Here's where you can adjust ratings for computer opponents. Use the paint shop to recreate your favorite cars and teams, and where you manage rosters of opponents to race against. Options. This is where you'll adjust your controls, graphics, and sound preferences. Remember, you can also access this menu from other areas with the game, including while you're at the racetrack itself. Replay Studio lets you view and edit your saved replay files. The ability to edit replay files is a powerful feature in NASCAR Racing 2003 season, giving you the capability to build and share highlight reels with all your friends. A quick spin. From the main menu, click Testing Session and select Michigan Speedway, a wide, comfortable 2-mile D-shaped track. Now you're at what we like to call the race weekend screen. From here you can view replays, check standings and lap times, and control the entire slate of racing sessions. Notice the various buttons on the screen that allow you to visit the garage to adjust your race car, pause the live action, and most importantly, hit the track. Click the green drive button in the lower right corner and let's climb inside the car. Before you mash the gas, make sure you like the driving view. If you prefer to drive using the cockpit view, you're all set. If you'd rather try one of the other views, just press the page up, page down keys on your keyboard to cycle through the 5 available views in the game. Next, make sure your speed gear display, located to the left of the steering wheel, is turned on. If it isn't, press the S key on your keyboard. We'll go over all the other cockpit features and controls later. Right now, we just want to see you get some laps under your belt. Shift to first gear and gently begin accelerating. Try to shift into second gear and keep the RPMs below 6,000 until you reach the backstretch. Did you already spin out? A real stock car's tires are cold and don't have as much grip. Remember, start slowly, keep the car under control until the tires warm up, which usually takes 2 to 3 laps. Steer the car on the apron of the track, staying along the bottom of the pavement through turns 1 and 2. When you reach the back straightaway, merge onto the track, shift to third, and increase the throttle. Work your way up the gearbox quickly until you reach 4th gear, about the same time that your car approaches turn 3. As the pavement darkens, release the accelerator and try to aim for the middle of the turn. At this point, you should be off the gas entirely. Let the car glide into the corner as the RPMs fall off. Gradually add about 50% braking. Keep the car turning the car in the proper direction, which at this point should still be left. Have to concentrate to keep the car from drifting down the front straightaway. Reapply the throttle in a smooth, gradual manner as your car exits turn 4. The front straightaway at Michigan is a large, sweeping left bend that requires supreme concentration. Try to keep your car in the darkened groove as you cross the start-finish line. When you approach turn 1, keep the car high on the track, lift off the gas early, and let it drift down near the bottom on its own. Stay off the gas until you feel like the car is about halfway through the turn. Gradually reapply throttle and power up off the bottom of the track as you exit turn 2. Avoid the urge to stomp on the gas. Even at high speeds, this could cause the rear wheels of the car to spin out. Down the back straightaway, keep the car near the outside wall. You'll probably have to steer towards the right somewhat in order to achieve this. Approaching turn 3, stay high and lift off the accelerator early, again letting the car drift down towards the bottom of the track. Coast around the bottom of turn 3 and 4 until you reach the halfway point, then ease back onto the throttle and drive back toward the flag stand. Take some more laps and get acquainted with your race car, and press the escape key when you're done. An important word about chassis setups. Chances are the car you just drove used the easy default chassis setup. The easy default car setup for each track is a symmetrical one, meaning the shock, spring, caster, and camber settings have all been set to neutral values in order to make the car's handling more predictable and act more like what you would expect from the family station wagon. However, station wagons don't win stock car championships, and symmetrical setups will not give you the fastest lap time on oval tracks. On an oval, you'll be turning in only one direction, left, and because of that, you'll want an asymmetrical setup, more along the lines of the fast setups included with the NASCAR Racing 2003 season. These setups feature suspension that is always tuned differently on the right side versus the left. Asymmetrical setups will help the car turn left in order to get it through the corners as quickly as possible, but they have the annoying side effect of pulling the car to the left on the straights. As a result, you may find that you need to counter steer to the right on the straights in order to keep the car tracking straight ahead. This is perfectly normal and is something that real NASCAR drivers have to deal with every time they climb into the car. If you feel comfortable tinkering with the car setup in the garage, try experimenting with different caster settings to find a good balance between turning ability and straight line control. Basic driving tips. Now that you've run some laps and become more comfortable with the feel of your stock car, let's cover some of the basics that will help you become a competitive NASCAR driver. First of all, a word about chassis setups. Any NASCAR driver will tell you that in order to win a championship, you've got to have good setups for every track. But while a car setup to your liking can help you drive faster, it won't necessarily make you drive better. Here are some ways to improve your driving skills quickly. Study other drivers, whether computer opponents or humans on the internet. Watching them will give you a good understanding of the fundamentals and will serve as a solid foundation upon which you can build your skills. Pay close attention to the racing lines as they drive, as well as their speeds and braking points. Concentrate on one track at a time. Don't jump around from track to track each time you launch NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Learn your way around one track comfortably. Try to turn competitive laps in the preferred groove, but also practice running alternate lines, both high and low. Successful drivers know how their car will behave on every part of a specific track. Get comfortable in traffic. Skip qualifying and take a provisional. Start in last place. Try to patiently pick your way through traffic and work your way toward the front of the field. Study the tape. Save and review replays of your escapades on the track. Be sure to analyze the action using the various camera angles to learn as much as possible. The helicopter view is particularly useful for finding the fastest way around a speedway and for spotting a problem with a particular chassis setup. Listen to your car, squealing those tires through every corner. Run some practice laps to learn how fast you can drive through each corner at a particular track without squealing the tires. Some tire scrubbing is to be expected, but if you're laying down enough rubber to resurface the entire city of Daytona, you'll need to learn to drive with a bit more finesse. Try braking a little earlier going into a corner. This technique will often allow you to power out of that turn with much more authority while conserving precious rubber. Driver's meeting. In this section, we'll give you all the info you'll need to get around in NASCAR Racing 2003 season, including everything from how to compete in various types of races to how to paint your car. Setting up races. At the main menu, choose the type of event you'd like to drive in. Select testing session if you want to have an empty track all to yourself. Click on single race if you want to pick a track and compete offline against computer recreations of real NASCAR drivers. If you're experienced enough to battle the NASCAR pros on a variety of tracks, go for the championship. Finally, there's multiplayer. Stop trash talking and just bring it. Time to show your skills to the world, baby. Race options. From the testing session, single race, championship, and multiplayer screens, you can customize many aspects of the racing action, such as the race distance, the weather, and the skill level of the computer opponents you'll be battling, if any. Testing and single race modes, you'll be able to select the track. In championship mode, you'll race on whichever track happens to be next on the schedule. In multiplayer mode, you'll be able to select the track only for the races you create and host. Click on the Show Options button at the bottom left of the screen to reveal the entire list of racing options that you can adjust. These items will vary based on the game mode you've chosen. Here are explanations for the various race options you'll encounter in NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Remember, not all options are available in all game modes. Track select. Bull rings to super speedways, choose from the list of authentic NASCAR tracks to race on. Driving mode. Arcade mode gives you a car that's easier to drive, more traction and maneuverability than real race cars have. Simulation mode is the real deal. Be at the helm of a 750 horsepower beast. Hang on tight. Race weekend. Specify the length of each session in the race weekend. Practice and happy hour sessions are set in minutes, and the race session is set as a percentage of the actual 2003 race distance. Run a short 5% sprint race, or lock the door, take the phone off the hook, and run a full 100% marathon, just like the big boys do. To skip the practice and happy hour sessions, check the quick race box. This allows you to jump right into qualifying and then straight to the race itself, but you better be good. Use the pit stop frequency option to modify the tire and fuel usage rate for your race. At the default value of 1x, fuel and tires are consumed in real time. At 2x, they are consumed at double the normal rate, etc. The purpose of this option is to be able to create shorter races that force players to make pit stops. At 1x, it can take up to 35% race distance before a pit stop becomes necessary, while at the maximum value of 4x, players will probably have to make a stop in order to finish a 10% race. Computer opponents. This section of the options list allows you to adjust the computer-controlled competition to match your skill level. Use the roster selector to specify the group of opponents you want to race against. The rosters themselves are organized using the opponent manager screen. Decide how many other cars you want to oppose. Use the strength control to either manually adjust the overall strength of your computer opponents or use the auto setting. When using the auto setting, NASCAR Racing 2003 season uses data based on your performance at each track and comes up with a recommended opponent strength value in the auto field. Remember, the auto setting is based on your performances at each individual track. If you were to race 5 times at Daytona and the auto strength climbs to 95%, then you decide to make your first visit to Talladega, the auto level will drop back down to the default 70 because you haven't raced there yet. Adaptive speed control, aka catch-up mode. This is a feature that basically serves to always keep your car in the middle of the racing action. As you drive faster or slower laps, the computer opponents compensate to match your speed. This differs from the auto strength setting discussed earlier, in that adaptive speed control is dynamic, ever changing as you race. The auto strength feature is updated only at the end of each race. Damage. Choose from the 3 different damage settings: none, moderate, realistic. Damage set to none, your car becomes impervious to collisions. At moderate, your car will sustain minimal damage during hard collisions. Ready to take the rookie stripes off your bumper? Then choose realistic damage, but realize that a heavy collision usually spells the end of your day. Remember that this setting refers to collision damage only. It's still possible to ruin the engine and blow the tires due to abuse, regardless of the damage setting you've chosen. Rules. Here's where you can change the various rules for the race weekend. Checking the full pace lap box will cause the pre-race pace lap to start in the pits, just like it does in real life. Trade-off is that it can take a long time to complete a full pace lap, especially at the road courses. If you prefer an abbreviated pace lap that starts on the racing surface, leave this box unchecked. The yellow flags box controls whether or not a yellow caution flag will be waved in the event of a hazardous condition on the track, as is the case in real life. Without yellow flags, the race will go by faster. Things can get pretty hairy with cars barreling full steam through the scene of an accident. The double file restart setting is only applicable if yellow flags box is checked. Double file restarts are enabled. Cars that aren't on the lead lap will be allowed to line up on the inside of the race leaders during cautions. Regardless of this setting, per NASCAR rules, double file restarts are not used at the road courses. They aren't used during the last 10 laps of a race. There are a few rules that are available only in multiplayer races. For example, hardcore mode is designed to help provide as level a playing field as possible during online contests by forcing all drivers to use the cockpit view and have certain realistic visual effects enabled. Lastly, the fixed setup option forces everyone to race with the same car setup, leveling the playing field. The race hosts determine which chassis setup to be used. Weather. Often overlooked, weather conditions have a profound effect on your car's handling. Cooler air is less dense than warmer air, and when the mercury drops, you can expect your car's engine to breathe more efficiently. Drag is also reduced in cooler, thinner air. Hotter weather tends to stress your car's systems, increase the amount of drag. Also remember that the tires grip better when they're warmer, just below the peak operating temperature of 225 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind can also have a marked effect on the car's handling. The tailwind will push it down the straights and tend to make it loose in the corners, while a stiff headwind will slow it down on the straights and cause a severe push in the corners. Picking the realistic box will set the weather based on average local conditions for each track, but if you'd rather set the weather to your own specifications, just uncheck that box and go for it. Note, the prominent flags at each track are animated, and their animation direction and rate matches the current wind settings, so keep an eye on the flags to help gauge the wind. The race weekend menu. The race weekend menu is the place where you navigate amongst the various tasks at the track, from taking the car into the garage for tweaking, to navigating among the sessions of the event, to viewing standings and replays. Race weekend menu is your NASCAR track pass. Click on the various tabs on the race weekend menu to view items like general race information, a chronology of lap times, the current standings, and the race entry list. Use the replay controls, as described later, to view highlights. Visit the garage for adjustments, change game options, drive the car, all by clicking on the buttons found on the race weekend menu. NASCAR Racing 2003 season allows you to easily jump to the start of any session during the race weekend by using the session navigation controls. As each session progresses, timer will grow from left to right underneath that session's name. Go to the start of a session, simply click on the arrow control of the session name. You can go forward or backward through time, so you not only can skip ahead to future sessions, and also go back to the start of a previous session or the current session. Keep in mind that if you decide to rerun a session, you'll be starting from scratch, not only for that session, but also for future sessions in the weekend as well. For example, let's say you've practiced, finished qualifying, let's say you qualified 8th, and are halfway through happy hour, you decide to jump back to the start of practice. Doing so, erase not only the results of the original practice session, but the results of qualifying and happy hour as well. Rules of the road. Every driver needs to know the basic rules of stock car racing before the flag drops. Penalties are disabled in practice and happy hour, except for reckless driving. Your spotter will still let you know when you've committed an infraction. There won't be any consequences. However, the officials won't be so lenient in the race session itself. Break a rule then, and those officials will dole out penalties faster than a motorcycle cop in a foul mood. With that in mind, here are the rules. No passing under yellow, including the pace car. When the yellow flag comes out, the leader is instructed to race back to the start-finish line. Once the leader crosses the start-finish line, all traffic behind the leader must also slow and line up according to the rules. However, if a car is going too slowly, the rule is tossed out. Your spotter will tell you what to do. The penalty is a black flag, and you must stay in your pit stall long enough to offset any advantage you gained. No speeding in the pits. Can't exceed the pit road speed limit. The speeding penalty varies depending on the situation. You are caught speeding on pit road, whether en route to the stall or exiting the pits under green flag conditions. You will be black flagged and must come back and drive through the pits. You cannot stop in your pit stall without breaking the speed limit. Failure to adhere to the speed limit during this drive-through will result in a second black flag. This time, you'll have to serve a stop-and-go penalty. The pit road speed limit is broken under yellow flag conditions. There is no black flag. You must go to the end of the longest pacing line for the restart. You must merge properly when exiting the pits. The rule is to stay on the apron where it's far away from the racing line as possible until the spotter says, "Okay, merge when you can." It doesn't necessarily mean it's safe to merge. It just means you may legally merge at any time. Some tracks, like Indianapolis, pit exit routes that you must follow if you want to avoid this penalty. The penalty is a black flag stop and go under green, or a simple go to the end of the longer line, no black flag under yellow. You must enter the pits properly. Cutting across the grass in an attempt to avoid having to slow down to the pit speed limit is a no-no. You must cross the line that marks the beginning of the pit stall area. At Homestead, you need to use the pit access road in order to avoid this penalty. If you break this rule under green flag conditions, you'll be black flagged and you'll need to come in and serve a 30-second penalty. Under yellow, you won't be black flagged, but you'll have to go to the end of the longer pacing line. You can't cut across the inner loop at Watkins Glen or the hairpin at Infineon Raceway without stopping. Form either action and fail to come to stop before you merge with traffic. Penalized. You'll be black flagged and forced to serve a stop-and-go penalty. You can't pass the leader before the start-finish line on a start or restart. There is a fudge factor built in to keep you, when leading, from intentionally being able to cause a violation for someone else. If a car is going too slowly, the rule is tossed out. The spotter will let you know if it's okay to pass. Keep in mind that in races with double file restarts, the leader on a restart is the car in the outside lane. If you break this rule, you'll be black flagged and you'll have to come in and serve a stop and go penalty. You can't pass a car in the same pacing line on the inside before you reach the start-finish line. You can pass on the outside, but not the inside. Again, if a car is going too slowly, this rule is tossed out, and your spotter will let you know that it's okay to pass. If you break this rule, you'll be black flagged. You have to come in and serve a stop and go penalty. You can only pit on the appropriate laps. Only the cars on the lead lap may pit the first lap the pits open. Everyone else must wait until the next lap. The penalty for entering a closed pit is a trip to the end of the longer pacing line. Your spotter will tell you where to go. You can't continue to race with heavy damage. Your car is damaged to the point that the engine is smoking heavily, or your car is dropping debris or fluid, you'll be black flagged. To clear the black flag, you must pit, get the car repaired, at least to the point that NASCAR feels it's safe. If the car is too heavily damaged, it's possible that the crew won't be able to fix it well enough for you to continue, and you won't be allowed back on the track. You can't drive in the wrong direction. If you do, you'll get disqualified. Driving in the wrong direction can be done either forward or backward, so be careful. You can't pass the official at the end of pit road if he's showing the stop sign. If you pass the official while he's showing the stop sign, you'll have to go to the end of the longest line. This rule is only applicable to races with yellow flags. Multiple penalties. For the sake of convenience, if you have multiple penalties, you only need to come into the pits once. For each penalty beyond the first one, an additional time penalty is tacked on to the time normally associated with the infraction. This is done to assimilate the additional time it would have taken to serve you the penalties on separate trips to the pits. Post-race penalties. You have unserved penalties when the checkers fall. You'll receive a post-race penalty, 1 lap per outstanding infraction. Serving penalties. You get black flagged, you must report to the pits where the NASCAR official will detain you in your pit stall for however long it takes you to serve your penalty. However, you can only clear a black flag for non-damage related issues under green flag conditions. Even then, you can't clear a black flag on a restart. If you happen to be on pit road when the yellow comes out, you may proceed to your stall, legally serve the penalty, and clear the black flag. Have 4 green flag laps to come in and clear the black flag. If you choose to ignore the black flag, you'll be disqualified. A few final items of note. In qualifying, your time will be tossed and you'll be given a provisional starting position at the rear of the grid. You cut the inner loop at Watkins Glen or the final hairpin at Infineon. If the yellow flags are turned on, it is possible for the start or restart to be waved off in the event of a mishap. If this occurs, the start-restart will be delayed by 1 lap. In arcade mode, the rules are relaxed. Speeding on pit road, passing under yellow, passing the pace car, reckless driving, and cutting the inner loop at Watkins Glen or the hairpin at Infineon are the only rules enforced. In-car controls. Now that you've got some laps under your belt and you're an expert at creating and customizing race events, you did study all of the previous pages, didn't you? Let's cover all of the items you'll have access to whenever you're in the driver's seat. These in-car controls include the instrumentation of your stock car as well as the keyboard keys that allow you to communicate with your pit crew. Are you one of those drivers who prefer to adjust the seat as soon as you climb into a car? Field of view can be adjusted from inside the car or at the options menu. Press Ctrl F/Alt F to zoom in or out to your liking. The S key on your keyboard toggles on or off speed, gear, flag display shown just beside the driver's side window. The function keys on your keyboard, F1 to F9, toggle on or off the various pit radio displays superimposed over the lower right corner of the cockpit. The rear view mirror keeps you abreast of what is behind you. The dashboard tachometer measures engine RPM. It's the biggest dial on the dash because real stock cars don't have speedometers and the driver relies on the tachometer to calculate speeds. Engine revs higher than 8,500 RPM, it's time to shift. Secondary dials. These instruments provide information about your car's current health. Fuel pressure should hold steadily at around 9 psi until you start to run low on gas. After that, it will start to drop pretty quickly. Water temperature should hover at around 220 degrees. The water temperature is too hot, probably got too much tape over the grill or heavy front end damage. Oil pressure and oil temperature are reflective of your engine stress. If the pressure drops or the temperature rises, either you already have an engine problem or you're about to have one. This could be the result of an improper car setup, gears, an abusive driving style, or the result of damage. Warning lights. The critical gauges each have a warning light, sometimes called an idiot light, adjacent to them. These lights will start to blink to let you know something's wrong. The mirror. Press the M key on your keyboard to toggle through the various levels of mirror detail. The action seems too choppy, you might be able to make things run a little smoother by reducing the mirror detail. In addition, you can press the N key on your keyboard to remove the cockpit reflections, including the back of your roll cage. Driving views. Cycle through the various driving views by pressing the page up/page down keys on your keyboard. There are 5 views to choose from while driving. Try them all and pick the one that keeps you on the track. In multiple multiplayer races in which the race host has checked the hardcore mode option, you'll have to race using the cockpit view. Page up and page down keys will be disabled. Function key displays. Various function key displays are available only when you're driving the car. They serve as the means by which you'll request pit service, view up to the moment standings, keep tabs on how many laps are left in the race, so take the time to learn how these keys work. To call up one of these displays, press the appropriate function key on the keyboard, F1 through F9. Switch to a different display, press that display's function key, and it will replace the current display if one is already on screen. Toggle the function key display window off, press the function key associated with the current display being shown. So if you have the F3 display turned on, press F3 again to turn the function key window off. Here's what each function key allows you to see or do. F1 Session Info. Here you'll find information concerning your lap speeds or times, as well as your position in the current session. The current lap and the remaining number of laps or time in the session, and the amount of time cars immediately in front of and or behind you in the standings are away from you. Not all of this information is available during every session. The F1 display will update each time you cross the start-finish line. F2 Standings. Each time you invoke the standings display, your car's position will appear in the center of the window. To scroll through the complete list of drivers, use the up-down cursor arrow keys on your keyboard. You can always reset the standings display by simply toggling the window off and then on again with the F2 key. F2 display has two modes, and you can use the spacebar to toggle between them both. The first mode is displayed by default, and it shows the session standings based on your most recent trip across the start-finish line. The second mode is a real-time display that shows you which cars are immediately in front of you, behind you, track, regardless of their position in the standings. In this mode, cars listed in white are on the same lap as you. Those listed in red are one or more laps ahead of you, and those in green are one or more laps behind you. If a car coming up from behind you to lap you, F2 display line will start to flash, letting you know that the leaders are closing in on you. 3. Fuel. This window gives you the car's current fuel status, including the estimated amount of fuel remaining and the approximate number of laps you can complete before your tank runs dry. At the bottom of the window, you can tell your crew chief how many cans of fuel to put into the car during your next pit stop. Each can holds up to 11 gallons of 110 octane racing fuel. Choices you have are 2 cans, 22 US gallons, complete fill up, 1 cans, 1 can, splash, or none. Splash of fuel will give you approximately 1/8 of a tank of gas, perfect for closing laps of a race when you can't afford a lengthy pit stop. The crew will always stop fueling the car once the tank has been filled up its 22-gallon capacity. Or cursor arrow keys on the keyboard to request the desired amount of fuel. Since the default is usually 2 cans, the crew will always top off your tank unless otherwise specified. The default value is set by the crew chief and is based on the estimates you see in the F3 box. The fuel calculations performed by your crew are estimates only. They may be too high, they may be too low. Since real-life crew chiefs tend to err on the side of caution, your crew chief will do the same. So if you don't feel confident with his estimates, pit earlier and or take more fuel than he recommends. F4. Tire temps. Perhaps the most important data available, the F4 display reveals your current tire temperatures. This display gives you the inner I, middle M, and outer O temperatures of each tire as you drive. Every NASCAR driver will tell you that the fastest car on the track is not necessarily the one with the most horsepower, but the car with the best grip. That's where the tire temperature display becomes vital. As you drive your car at high speed, each tire undergoes a certain amount of stress. The more a tire is stressed, the higher the temperature rises in that tire, and the shorter its lifespan will be. In general, you'll want to aim for similar temps across the tire to enjoy maximum grip tire life. Use the information shown here to adjust tire pressures and or suspension components like camber and caster in order to achieve balanced temperatures in your setup. 5. Tire change. Here you can specify which tires you'd like change during the ensuing pit stop, and you can check the current remaining life of each tire. You can also use this window to specify any tire pressure adjustments you'd like made during your next pit stop. Status bar shows you each tire's current span is displayed beneath tire pressures. Each tire's status gradually becomes shorter with wear. Fresh tires have a full green status bar, and as a tire wears, its bar will shrink and turn yellow. The yellow bar will then shorten and eventually turn red. When a tire reaches red status, it can blow at any time, so unless the race is on the line, you should make every effort to pit for fresh rubber immediately. Use the spacebar on your keyboard to select which tires you want to have changed. Choices are to have all 4 tires changed, right sides only, left sides only, or no tires changed. Each tire shown in the tire change window has a box next to it. Check marks fills the box of each tire that will be changed. To have your crew perform tire pressure adjustments, use the up or down cursor arrow keys on your keyboard to select a specific tire. The current tire will appear highlighted in yellow. Use the left or right cursor arrow keys to instruct the crew to raise or lower the cold pressure of each tire. The hot pressure, the operating pressure, indicated by H of each tire, is indicated just below the cold pressure value. Once you've specified the new pressure value, your crew will make the necessary pressure adjustments during your next pit stop. Pressure adjustments are often the first thing a race team does to correct handling problems, because it is the least drastic solution. Reducing the pressure in a tire may help it grip better during corners, but also create more rolling drag, thus robbing the car of some straightaway speed. F6, wedge, or crossweight is a common adjustment teams make during the race to change the car's handling. Adding wedge will increase the amount of chassis weight applied to the right front and left rear corners of the car. Conversely, negative values shift the weight towards the left front and right rear of the car. Adding wedge may help cure a loose condition, but it will also increase the load on the right front wheel, which is usually the most heavily stressed tire to begin with. Removing wedge will have the opposite effect and will tend to loosen up the car. Use the left or right cursor arrow keys to make wedge adjustments in 5-pound increments. Changes you specify will be implemented during your next pit stop. F7, track bar. You can also change the car's handling by adjusting the track bar, although you can adjust both sides of the bar from the garage menu and only adjust the right side when you're in the pits. Raising the right side of the track bar will loosen the rear suspension. Lowering the right side of the track bar will help tighten up the rear end. Use the left or right cursor arrow keys to specify the amount of track bar adjustment you'd like made during your next pit stop. F8, grill tape. It's common for teams to use heavy-duty tape to cover a portion of the front grille. The percentage display represents how much of the front grille is covered. Thus, a 20% tape setting means that 80% of the grille is still open. The more tape you add to the grille, the more you cause the air to be funneled around the nose of the car rather than into its radiator. More tape means less drag and more front downforce, which means a faster car. It also means less cool air is getting to the radiator. The object is to try and get away with as much tape as you can without overheating the engine. Watch that water temperature gauge, and if the needle starts to peg, you'll know you've got too much tape on that grill. Keep in mind that during qualifying, you'll only need to run a couple of fast laps, so in many cases, you'll be able to get away with a fully taped 100% grill for that session. Use the left or right cursor arrow keys to instruct the crew to add or remove tape during the next pit stop. F9, pit summary. This display is a summary of all the changes that will be made to the car during your next pit stop. if you specify changes to the tire pressures, for example, you'll see those changes listed here. You'll also see how many tires will be changed and how much fuel will be added. The F9 display is also the place where you tell your crew whether to make repairs to your car or not. If your car has been damaged, the repair option at the bottom of the window will automatically read yes, meaning that when you come in for service, your crew will try to repair your car. If you'd rather not have the pit crew fix your damage, press the space bar to toggle the repair display to say no. While you're in your pit stall under repairs, your crew will work as long as necessary, sometimes a minute or more, in order to repair the car to the best of their ability. If you want the crew to stop repairing the car in order to avoid losing a lap, for example, press the space bar and toggle the repair status to no. After a couple seconds, they'll cease repairs, lower the jack, and let you leave the stall. The escape interface. Anytime you want to stop driving, return to the pits, or simply take a break and watch some replays, just press the escape key. The game will pause, except for in multiplayer mode. You'll be presented with a list of options that will vary based on the game mode and current session. Use the up or down cursor arrow keys to select the item you want. Press the enter key. Sometimes you won't be able to access the escape interface unless your car is completely stopped. For example, while in the middle of a race session online. If this is the case, you'll see a warning message appear on the screen instructing you to bring the car to a complete stop before using the escape key. Just pull into the pits or pull over to the side of the track, stop the car, and try the escape key again. Most of the options in the escape interface are self-explanatory, but here are some of the items that may not be as obvious. Get out of car. This takes you back to the race weekend screen. Retire takes you out of the race and back to the race weekend screen. You will not be able to rejoin the race. Your day is done. Call tow truck takes you back to your pit stall. Before your pit crew can begin working on your car, a simulated towing countdown takes place. The pause key. Press the pause key on your keyboard to pause or resume the action, whichever the case may be. The pause key does not work during multiplayer races. Instant replays. Relive all of your moments of glory. NASCAR Racing 2003 season's elaborate instant replay system. Replays are viewable using a multitude of camera angles, and in most cases, you'll be able to watch the action from any car on the track. NASCAR Racing 2003 season even includes an editing feature that will allow you to add your own sounds, artwork, and effects to your replay highlight reels. You can view a replay from several different menus in the game. You're at the race weekend screen or in the car, have limited replay functionality. You can watch and manipulate replay footage from the current race, and you'll be able to save footage, but you can't use any of the editing functions on the fly. In order to have access to the full arsenal of replay system features, you'll need to go to the main menu and select the Replay Studio option. Replay controls. Once you've chosen to view a replay, you'll see the replay viewing window. You know how to use a standard VCR. Find the replay controls to be relatively simple. Use the controls found at the bottom of the screen to rewind the footage to its beginning, start and pause the replay, or fast forward to the end. Use the cut button to chop longer clips into small highlight reels that you can save. Click on the timeline, drag its slider to cue the footage to a specific point. Rewind to beginning. One click does it. Rewind. Click once to rewind at normal 1x speed. Each subsequent click causes the footage to rewind continuously faster. Step backward. Each click of this button steps backward 1 frame at a time. Click and hold the mouse button to produce a low speed rewind. Play or pause. Click once to unpause action that's frozen. Roll tape. Click again to freeze the footage. Note that you are not pausing the game world, you're only pausing the replay. Step forward. Each click of this button advances the footage forward 1 frame at a time. Click and hold the mouse button down to roll the footage forward at a low speed. Slow-mo control. Click this button to view the action in slow motion. Each subsequent click of this button slows the footage down another notch. Fast forward. Click once to fast forward at normal 1x speed. Each subsequent mouse click increases the speed of the fast forward action. Forward to end. Click once to jump to the end of the footage. Cut. Use this button to cut and save shorter highlights. Cue the footage to a specific point and click this button once to select a starting point for the highlight. Now go to the point where you'd like the highlight to end. Click the cut button a second time. You will then be prompted to save the new edited version in your replay folder. Save. Click this button to save the current replay in its entirety in your replay folder. Toggle replay window size. When viewing replays from the race weekend menu, each click of this button toggles between full screen and inset window views. When viewing replays from the cockpit of your car, clicking this button exits the replay viewer and turns you to the driver's seat. Toggle replay standings display. Pressing the S key on the keyboard brings up a standings rundown during replays. The replay standings box will have up to 3 different modes of display depending on which race session you are in. Use the left or right cursor arrow keys to toggle among these display modes. Changing cameras and driver views. NASCAR Racing 2003 season gives you many different camera angles you can view the action from. In replays of multiplayer races, however, you won't typically be able to view action from every driver's car at any given time. In the full screen view, change replay camera angles by clicking on the controls next to the camera heading. To view the replay from another driver's vantage point, use the controls next to the driver button. From the race weekend view, select the camera and driver with the controls located below the 3D window of the session navigation area. Alternatively, you can use the keyboard shortcut keys to select cameras and cars while in any replay viewing window. Replay Studio. NASCAR Racing 2003 season makes it easy for you to amass an incredible collection of the main menu, choose Replay Studio. Take into a screen that lists all of the replay clips that are stored in your replay folder, organized by track. From here, you can quickly jump to any replay recorded at any track. Click on the column headings to sort the list to your liking. You can also use the drop-down controls at the top of the screen to filter the list to include replays from one particular player or one particular track. Use the delete button at the top of the screen to trash old clips you no longer want. Click on the Edit button to access NASCAR Racing 2003 Season's Replay Editor. This tool allows you to lay aside your helmet and driving gloves, become a sports television director. Select a replay file you want to edit, click the Edit button, and start creating your own highlight reel. The Replay Editor, editing replays. NASCAR Racing 2003 Season's Replay Editor places an array of movie-making features at your fingertips. Take the replay file of your photo finish in the weekly league race, put together a highlight reel complete with sound bites, custom graphics, and screen fades. Let's face it, humiliating your buddies can be one of life's simple pleasures, especially when it is done in a harmlessly creative way. With the replay editor at your disposal, you're poised to do that and a whole lot more. Let's go over the replay editor screen, one section at a time. VCR buttons, located beneath the 3D display window. From left to right, these buttons perform the following functions. Rewind to the beginning of the replay. Rewind. Clicking more than once will increase the rewind speed. Rewind one frame. Play or pause. Advance one frame. Advance. Clicking more than once will increase the advance speed. Advance to the end of the replay. Car and camera selectors. These combination drop-down or arrow selectors serve the same purpose they do on the main replay screen. They let you change the focus camera or the focus car. The C, Shift-C, and V, Shift-V commands can be used to navigate to the previous or next camera and car, just like on the standard replay screen. Replay editing buttons, located to the right of the VCR controls. These buttons will allow you to perform cuts, copies, and splices of replay footage. From left to right, the buttons are as follows. Place marker. Marker at the current frame of the replay. Pressing the button again cancels the placement of the first marker. Cut footage. Deletes footage from the marker to the current frame. The marker must be in place in order for this to work. Copy footage. Copies footage from the marker to the current frame up to the clipboard. The marker must be in place in order for this to work. Paste footage. Paste footage copied to the clipboard into the replay. Note that this is really an insert paste function. Clipboard contents are inserted, and any existing footage is pushed forward in time to resume at the end of the newly pasted section. Save as saves your changes. When you're doing a lot of work on a replay, you may want to save it under a new name after each step. By using incremental saves, you'll be in a position where if you make a mistake, you won't have to start from the beginning again. Replay feature controls, located in the bottom right area of the screen. These controls serve as the heart of the editing system. Stamp. This is a button to press if you want to insert a custom image into the replay. In order for a piece of artwork to be usable by the game, it must be in the .bmp or .tga format. It must reside in the exports or imports subfolder of the main program. You'll also be asked to set the screen position in pixels where the image will appear. 0, 0 is the upper left corner of the screen, and 800, 600 is the lower right. Finally, you'll be asked to specify the fade, time it takes for the image to fade on and off the screen, and the duration, total time you want the image to appear on screen, times in seconds. Sound. This button allows you to insert your own audio into the replay. In order for a sound clip to be usable by the game, it must be in .wav or .ogg format, and it must reside in the export or imports subfolder of the main program. Text. This button allows you to insert a text bubble into your replay. Just like with the stamp tool, you'll need to set the screen coordinates and the fade and duration times here as well. You'll also have the option to specify the maximum pixel width of the bubble. The smaller the number, the narrower the bubble. Finally, at the bottom of the pop-up box is the area in which you type the text that will appear. Fade. This powerful feature lets you insert fade effects. Fades are particularly useful for covering up portions of a replay that have been heavily edited. You'll need to decide whether you'd like to perform a fade in or a fade out. You'll need to specify the fade's lifespan or the time in seconds it will take the fade to complete. Camera switches the replay to the specified camera. If you have the TV1 camera active, pressing this button will cause the replay to switch to the TV1 view when it reaches that point in time. Car switches the replay to the specified car. Each time the replay reaches that point in time, the camera will switch to appropriate car. Playback lets you change the speed of the footage. Playback rate of 1 is normal speed. Going to a higher number will speed up the replay. By checking the 1/x box, you can use slow motion. Selecting a playback rate of 0 will pause the replay. Specify the duration of the pause in the lifespan area. Volume. This control lets you fade the volume of the game sounds in the replay. Useful if you want to include voiceovers from a camera view that is inherently loud, the cockpit for example, and you don't want them to be drowned out. Use the slider control to specify the volume level you want, and use the lifespan field to specify how long it will take to reach that level. Level of 25% works well when using voiceovers on top of loud cameras. Chapter. This allows you to place chapter breaks in a replay. Currently, chapter navigation is supported only in the driving lesson viewer. Make sure that you place a chapter break in advance of any events you want triggered in that chapter, otherwise they will not trigger. Toggle lets you turn off various effects like the ideal racing line, the racing groove, and car telemetry. Summary. This feature is limited to the driving lessons area of the game. The text you include in the provided box will appear on the right side of the screen when you select that replay file. You'll notice that most of these buttons have arrow controls located to their left side. Pressing a given function's left arrow will take you to the previous spot in the replay in which you use that function, while pressing the right arrow will take you to the next spot in which you use that function. For example, if you are at the very beginning of the replay and you press the right arrow control next to the sound button, the replay will advance to the first sound file trigger point. If you're at the end of the replay and press the left arrow next to the camera button, the replay will rewind to the last camera change trigger point. Making changes, modifying your changes, or getting rid of them entirely is all done via the command list, which is located in the upper left portion of the screen. It shows which replay editor commands are active at the current point of the replay. Once a command has been completed, it will disappear from the list. This means that commands that take just a single frame to complete, like camera switches, will be on the list for a fraction of a second, while something like a 10-second camera fade will be visible for, well, 10 seconds. To make changes to a particular command or to remove it entirely, you'll need to navigate through the replay, get to a point at which that command is active, and therefore it appears on the list. This isn't as daunting a task as it may seem. By using the arrow controls next to the individual replay feature buttons, you'll be able to track down any command quickly and easily. Once the command appears on the list, click its information line to select it, and then click the appropriate button at the bottom of the list, edit or delete. Some commands, like camera switches, cannot be edited, they can only be deleted. Art resources list. So you don't have any custom artwork ready to insert into your replays? Never fear. NASCAR Racing 2003 season includes several pieces of ready-made artwork that you may find useful. The art resources list is on the left side of the screen beneath the command list. To use one of these items, select it and then click the insert button at the bottom of the list. Going for it all. Ever wonder what it takes to claw your way to the top during a complete NASCAR season? From the main menu, click on the championship season to see if you've got the mojo to bring home the coveted NASCAR championship trophy. The championship is decided using a point system. You earn points according to how well you finish in each race. If you want to wear the champion's crown, you'll have to put together a season filled with consistent top 10 finishes. Win 10 or 12 races, but crash out and finish last in 10 or 12, and you'll find yourself out of the running because consistency wins the NASCAR title. Start by setting all of the parameters that will control your season. Race length, opponent strength, realism options, and rules can all be set up the way you want. But once your season is underway, these settings cannot be changed. Events are raced in the order they appear on whatever schedule file you use. For example, if you select the 2003 season schedule, you'll start in Daytona and end at Homestead, just like the big boys do. The standings and result buttons on this screen allow you to view individual race results as well as season totals. Naturally, if you haven't completed a certain race, there won't be any results for that event, so the results button will appear grayed out. Win the race and you'll receive at least 180 points, 175 points for finishing first, and a 5-point bonus for leading at least one lap. For a complete breakdown on how the NASCAR point system works, see Appendix A. Player info. Kind of boring being referred to as the player, don't you think? Personalize your player settings by using the player info menu. To get there, simply go to the main menu and click on the player info button in the right column. From here, you'll be able to change your driver's name, select which cars you'll drive, and check out your track records. Notice how there are separate car selections for single player, i.e. the testing, single race, and championship game modes, and multiplayer. Be sure to take the time to make selections for both categories, since the car you race offline may not be the same car you want to drive in your weekly internet league. Keep in mind that in order for other drivers on the internet to see you racing in your own personal car, they'll need to have a copy of your car file residing on their hard drive. Opponent Manager. Use the Opponent Manager menu, build and maintain lists of drivers called rosters for your races. The Opponent Manager screen also provides you with access to NASCAR Racing 2003 season's paint shop. The original game CD comes with a roster called Cup 2003, and it consists of all the licensed drivers in the game, plus several fictional cars to fill out the 43-car starting field. You can create your own rosters by simply clicking the New button underneath the roster heading at the top left of the screen, and then selecting the drivers you want added to it by clicking in the checkbox next to their names. You can build as many rosters as you want, and also create new drivers from the Opponent Manager screen To do so, just click the New button beneath the driver heading on the right side of the screen and fill in all the pertinent car and team information. Finally, by clicking the Ratings button underneath the driver heading, you'll be able to edit the driver ratings of any car that exists on your system. These ratings affect the performance of each car and can be adjusted to reflect the most current statistics, but they won't affect the speed and handling of your own car or of any human-controlled online opponents. The paint shop. Want to keep your collection of cars up to date with the latest and/or commemorative paint schemes of the series? NASCAR Racing 2003 season gives you the brushes and design tools to paint or repaint any race car in the game whenever you wish. To enter the paint shop, go to the main menu, click on the Opponent Manager button. To begin painting a car, select it from the driver's list on the left, click on the Enter Paint Shop button. Many of the controls found in the paint shop will seem familiar to those of you who have previously used any other artistic software packages. The Detail Shop allows you to paint the car itself, while the Team Shop offers you the ability to customize the look of your crew's uniforms and accessories. To move back and forth between the Detail Shop and the Team Shop, simply click on the appropriate tab controls. Basic painting. The basic process of painting a car or object consists of clicking on a tool and applying it to whatever you want to paint. For example, click on the freehand brush tool to select it, and then choose a primary color with the left mouse button. Choose a secondary color with the right mouse button. Next, click and hold the left mouse button as you drag it across the car or crew object to apply the primary color. Click and hold the right mouse button as you drag it to apply the secondary color. Using tools. By checking the box labeled Show Tools Options, you can see all of the pop-up windows each time you select a tool. Change the values in these windows to affect the tool you want to use. Like so many other buttons and elements of NASCAR Racing 2003 season, each tool in the painting toolbox has pop-up help. Just right-click on any button or hover the cursor over the tool for a few seconds, and the description will appear. Starting with a clean slate. There are two ways to start painting with a nice clean car. Create a new driver from scratch, or choose the car you wish to paint and select the eraser tool. Click the left mouse button on the car or object to clear the textures. Start with a solid primary color. Use the right mouse button in conjunction with the eraser tool. Clear the car. Fill it with a secondary color. Previewing the results. Click on the 3D preview button at the bottom of the screen to open a window that lets you see what you've accomplished. Click the auto rotate checkbox to let the car spin 360 degrees repeatedly, or uncheck the auto rotate box to stop the rotation and reveal a hand tool that you can use to turn the car in any direction that you wish. Simply click and hold the left mouse button while you rotate the car with the hand tool. Click and hold the right mouse button to zoom in and out. Click the auto rotate checkbox once again to let the car spin on its own using the new viewing angle you selected. Color and tool tips. When mixing colors, you can left click your mouse on the primary or secondary color swatch boxes to reveal additional color controls that allow you to create the exact color you're looking for. You'll notice that many of the tool buttons within the paint shop can be expanded to reveal multiple functions. These tools are denoted by a small triangle in the lower right corner of the tool button. Importing and exporting artwork. The paint shop also gives you the ability to import and export artwork to and from your car. Got a nice logo graphic you want to bring in? No problem. Save it as a Targa file .tga extension and import it using the import button at the bottom of the paint shop screen. Likewise, use the export button to send the entire car or team shop window to a Targa file. Open the Targa file in your favorite third-party painting application and touch it up the way you want. When you're finished, save your work and bring it back into NASCAR Racing 2003 season by using the paint shop's import feature. Multiplayer. Taking on the world. There's nothing quite like competing against up to 42 living, breathing, carbon-based opponents. If you want to see how you stack up against other drivers from around the world, NASCAR Racing 2003 gives you the license to thrill. A licensed copy of the game CD, LAN or internet connection are all you need. Configuring your connection. Click the multiplayer button on the main menu. If you're racing on the internet, you'll need to connect to it before you launch the game. Alt-tabbing out of the game, connecting to the internet, and alt-tabbing back won't work. Once you've connected to the internet, you need to make sure the game can detect your internet connection properly. Click on the Join control at the top of the screen and look in the Select Connection Method area on the left side of the screen. If your internet TCP/IP connection is listed, you are all set. If it is not listed, you'll need to press the Configure button at the bottom of the screen. Check the Find Network Addresses a Different Way box, and your connection should be listed. Local area network users. Note that if you're racing on a LAN, you will likely see your connection device, i.e. your network card, listed twice in the Select Connection Method list on the Join tab, and also the Connection Methods Allowed area on the Host tab. This is because your network card supports both of the network protocols supported by the game, IPX and TCP/IP. You are presented with this choice, pick IPX, because it has the less restrictive bandwidth concerns, and you'll be able to see many more opponent cars than you can in TCP/IP. Racing on Sierra.com. Racing on Sierra.com is the easiest way to find some online NASCAR action. Sierra.com help you find racers of every skill level, and chances are you'll be able to hop into a race at any hour of the day or night. Sierra.com also has a ranking system that is used to group drivers by ability level. Details of this ranking system are explained in Appendix B. To connect to Sierra.com, click on the Race on Sierra.com icon at the top right area of the multiplayer screen. The racing doesn't cost a thing. All it takes is a free membership to get you out onto the track. Don't have a Sierra.com account yet? NASCAR Racing 2003 season will allow you to create an account right from within the game. After you click Race on Sierra.com button, click the Create Account tab follow the on-screen prompts. If you already have a Sierra.com account, simply click on the Login tab and enter your sign-on information. Joining and hosting. Most drivers will join multiplayer races. That is, they'll participate in races that are created by someone else. To join a race, check the Join tab at the top of the screen. If you have a LAN connection available and there are races being held on the LAN, you'll see them listed in the Local Area Network Races area at the bottom of the screen. To enter one of these races, just click on the one that you want, then hit the Start button. Some races may be protected by a password. You'll need to know in advance if you expect to enter the race. In addition, you won't be able to join any race that is already advanced to its qualifying session. An alternative would be to type in the IP address or the phone number if you're connecting via direct modem only of the host machine. Do this in the area directly beneath the Select Connection Method drop-down control. By the way, if you race against the same competitors regularly, you may find the address book will come in handy, save you from manually having to input address information every time you connect to a particular machine. If you have a great internet connection, you might want to host some races. Using a dedicated server to host, a separate computer that is set aside to do nothing more than host the race is the best bet. To host a race, check the host box and set limits on what types of connections you'll allow. As the race host, you can choose the max latency selectors to prevent drivers who have poor internet connections from joining. In addition to picking the track, rules, and race weekend parameters, you can also decide how many drivers you'll allow to connect to your race. Each person that connects to the server requires about 22K of bandwidth. That means that on a 56K modem, you can reliably host 2 or 3 people. Once you exceed 3, things will start to degrade noticeably. DSL or cable modem users can reliably host from 10 to 15, even more, depending on the amount of bandwidth available. Keep in mind that it's the upstream data rate that counts, not typically the much faster downstream data rate. Once you have that number in kilobytes, divide it by 22, you'll have the maximum number of clients your machine will be able to reliably host. Now, if you're one of the lucky folks who happen to have access to a T1 line, be able to host a full field of cars without breaking a sweat. Hardcore mode, mainly intended for league-based racing. This setting forces all players to race from the cockpit view with the smoke, realistic windshield, and solar effects graphics options enabled. This way, all drivers are faced with the same field of view challenges. Because it forces the use of several high-end graphics options, hardcore mode can have a significant impact on performance, particularly on slower machines. Chatting. Online, sometimes want to chat with other drivers. Notice there are several chat buttons sprinkled throughout NASCAR Racing 2003 season's various multiplayer screens, most notably the race weekend menu. When you're racing online, you can click a chat button that opens up a pad for typing messages to your competitors. Just type your message, press the enter key to send it to the race field. You can also type messages from scratch, not a good idea at 180 miles per hour, by pressing the T key on your keyboard, typing your message, and hitting the enter key. Send private chats to other drivers by pressing the T key and adding a /# and car number before your message. It should look something like this: /#12 Curtis, don't drive it so low into turn 1. Auto chatting while racing in the car online. Pressing any numeric key across the top of your keyboard, 1 through 0, to display the appropriate auto chat message stored on your system. The enter key to send the message after you select the auto chat you want. It's a good idea to reserve auto chat message for necessary comments such as passing instructions, alerts to other drivers that you're going to pit, etc. To edit the default set of auto chat messages however you want, go to the options menu, either the main menu, the race weekend menu, or by pressing escape while driving the car. From the options menu, click on the other tab. Just click on an auto chat message and type in whatever you want. Here's a tip. If you place a $, at the end of an auto chat message, you won't have to press the enter key to send the message. Just press the number key and the message is sent immediately. Online racing etiquette. Online racing spawns many friendships, and often the actual racing itself can even take a backseat to the camaraderie experienced by its participants. If you want to get the most out of racing online, here's the best piece of advice for you. Don't be a jerk. Cause an intentional wreck or curse a fellow driver out and display poor character traits, and you'll soon discover it hard to find races to enter because you'll be banned from a lot of servers. Sure, you're allowed to make mistakes, you're allowed to be slow, and you're allowed to be human. You'll find that most racers online have little tolerance for immature temper tantrums, threats, and general poor sportsmanship. Remember, actual NASCAR drivers have been known to compete in online races too. Have fun racing and chatting with them while leaving the grade school behavior to your little brother. You'll quickly discover that if you can keep your temper in check and befriend those you race with, it really doesn't matter whether you're the fastest driver on the planet or not. People will get to know you as a fun, friendly, respectful, and safe competitor. When it comes to online racing, being safe is more important than being fast, because it only takes one unsafe driver to cause a massive wreck that ruins the race for everyone. Racing online fosters new friendships, but it does something else too. It will make you faster. Just by joining races and watching replays of the world's fastest drivers, you'll learn how to get through that corner a little bit faster. So where do you start? Here are some things to do. Join a league. Visit the news groups or do a quick internet search for the NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Most leagues has monikers like HAL, HGNS, BRW, and SCCA. Many leagues will also have their own web pages. Rodney Art runs a league called SASCAR, www.sascar.com, It consists of varied divisions depending on your experience. Join a team. Many drivers have formed teams in order to create secret chassis setups and driver notes. Get information on the web. Use your favorite search engine and try inputting NASCAR Racing 2003 season for keywords like virtual racing, N2K3, Papyrus, Racing League, or SimRacing. The garage. The garage is the place to build the perfect racing setup. Your crew can make minor race day adjustments for you in your pit stall, but inside the garage you can tweak and adjust virtually every aspect of your car. To enter the garage, go to the Race Weekend menu and click on the garage button at the bottom of the screen. If this is your first trip inside a NASCAR garage, don't panic. Remember, if you don't know what something means or what will happen if you make changes, just right-click on any item you see on the garage menu. You'll be enlightened via a pop-up help bubble. Click on any of the 3 tab controls: suspension, drivetrain or aero, weight bias, to see the various components available for adjustment. Setup selections. If you want specific setups to be used for the qualifying race sessions, use the appropriate drop-down controls in the upper left corner of the screen to select them. If you don't feel comfortable specifying a setup for one or both of those sessions, simply change the fields to read none, in which case the current setup will be used. Current setup is the one that is presently on the car. Setup/track notes. Real NASCAR drivers and crew members keep very thorough notes about every track visit. Click on the Setup Notes button to document your changes to the car. Use the track notes pad to save information about the way you drive the track itself, such as how many laps you can turn before the tires get too worn, how weather changes affect the handling, or whatever. Meet Manuel Daskalos, your chief engineer. Manuel Daskalos is the chief engineer for the number 77 Jasper engines and transmission Ford Taurus that completes every week on the NASCAR circuit. Manuel received a master's degree in mechanical engineering from Clemson University, and his thesis covered the optimization of the NASCAR stock car through computer simulation. While assisting Papyrus in the development of NASCAR Racing 2003 season, Manuel's work has essentially been an extension of what he does for this race team, except that he actually gets to drive what he tested for Papyrus. Haha. Manuel has provided real wind tunnel data, engine performance data, suspension geometry details, anti-roll bar. His professors would cringe if he called it a sway bar, design details, and some general design and construction data pertaining to building a NASCAR race car. During his own on-track tests with NASCAR Racing 2003 season, Manuel also examined performance data extracted from the game and compared it to data from his real-world team's tests. Manuel and the Pirates development team would then do some tweaking until the performance of the two converged. All of this work has gone into providing you with the most accurate NASCAR setup and driving experience available on PC. Tuning the car. Okay, You've got all of these settings that you can tweak, so where do you start? Needless to say, if you want to go fast, you've got to make adjustments to the car that suit your driving style. You'll find a complete chassis setup tutorial on the NASCAR Racing 2003 season CD prepared by Manual Desclose. Look for it in the Jasper folder on the game disk. This document covers the specifics, but here are a few general tips that you'll find helpful. Change one thing at a time. This makes it much easier to undo a mistake. You want the tires to be at the correct camber while cornering. The best grip is obtained with the tire leaning a bit into the turn, i.e. negative camber on the outside wheel, positive on the inside. Tires grip best when they are each shouldering their fair share of the load. You want the car to be neutral in handling, neither pushing nor loose. You can really tell by checking the front to back tire temps. They are neither equal, then the car is good. Mechanical changes, springs, shocks, track bar, camber, etc. affect the car at all speeds. Aerodynamic changes, spoiler, grille tape affect the car mostly at higher speeds, 140 plus miles per hour. Going below optimal tire pressure can help put heat into a tire that isn't reaching a good temperature. There is no single perfect measure. It's always a matter of trade-offs to arrive whatever makes the car work. If you're not comfortable making suspension changes, stick to the sway bars and stay away from the shocks. When it comes to springs, softer is better. Softer springs will generally do a better job of gripping bumpy pavement than stiff springs, and all pavement is bumpy to some degree. Just make sure you don't go too far and make them so soft that the car bottoms out and scrapes the pavement in the corners. When the car is cornering, weight shifts to the outside tires and more weight will shift at the end of the car that is stiffer. Short tracks, less front weight makes sense. Keep it close to 50% front weight. Generally want fourth gear to just barely trip the red warning light on your dashboard at the end of the longest straightaway. To change a single gear ratio without affecting the others, change the transmission ratio. For qualifying, use as much grille tape as you possibly can. Remember, your car only needs to last for a couple of laps. Thank you for joining me for this reading of the NASCAR Racing 2003 season instruction manual PDF. Like what you see, please consider subscribing. I do thank you very much for watching. Sweet dreams.